Alright, so make sure to download it and start installing Python. If you're on Windows, it should be self-explanatory how to install it. If you're on Linux or Mac, you can do brew install. So if you are on Linux, you're going to need to do brew install HTTP. But if you are on or you can do sudo apt install or get install HTTP, and it should install things as well. But for now, I think most of us are Windows. Anybody on Linux? HS? Okay, you're working on Linux. So just look for HTTP.org. And then start working on installing it using the installation instructions. On Linux, you do apt-get install HTTP. So again, you do sudo apt-get install HTTP. And it should install Python, it should install anything else it needs automatically. I'm online. What? Oh, sure. So for Windows, here's the instructions, by the way. So you need to install Python, and on Windows you need to make sure that Python, the path C Python 34 is on your path, and if you don't know how to do the path, I'll show you right now. You need to make sure that C Python 34 scripts is in your path as well. And finally, you're going to need to install pip, and once you install pip, you do this on command line. I just wanted to give you guys some time to do this, and if you need help, I need you to raise your hand, and the awesome people back there will help you as well.
Where?
YouTube instructions. Alright, who needs help? They can come back.
Path is in Windows 3, right?
Yeah, so you need to do something like this.
Wait, you're going with Python 3?
Yeah, 34. So here's an example of what you need to do to make sure it's on the path. You need to go to your system, your Windows, when you do right-click on Properties on my computer, and then you go to Advanced Systems, and then you click on Environment Variables, and then you click on Edit the Path, and on the path you make sure that both of those things are on the path. Does that make sense? When you walk around, make sure everybody's on the same page. Yep.
On the installation, the very last option was to add it to the path.
Okay, good. Yeah, so just make sure you select that option. Make sure it's on there. There's actually another one that you need to install to the path. I just want to make sure you both are on there. Okay, cool.
Are you recording?
Yeah. Oh, on there.
I'm sure that yeah, I got to download
I'm wondering how my battery, not my battery, but my memory is going to hold up. You'll go right.
You have to run the app. Go, see this right here. Yeah. Okay. Hey, sudo, okay. Sudo. Space. Apt-get.
Screen share, entire screen, share. Alright, you guys can also join that Hangout, but yeah, for those that want to do it.
Install. And you're going to ask me for your password.
Oh, no, I don't have this. I just have
Did you already run it?
All right. Who is not ready? I can come back.
Which one is the one that we are gonna open?
No. After you installed it, I just want to make sure that it's on your
And not like the administrative. What do you have?
What you bring and say that?
advanced settings. And then we can check for environment variables. And then go to path, which side one is
Is the one with the agency over there?
Oh, you guys?
Make sure it has
It's
the.
no, it's a.
So what you need to do is go to and then that's one. So the other one is yep. You're right there.
So what are the rest of the instructions?
Yeah. So make sure that the Python 34 is on there and the script ones are on there. Because you're going to want to install something after that as well. So we'll open up Python and then run Python get pip, the other file that is included in there, which will help you install pip in case it's not installed. And then finally you do pip install. There's a lot of things. I think I'm going to give you guys 4 more minutes to get this going. If we're not done, don't worry, we can continue going. We're going to have a break anyway with the pizza. So
How do I switch from install 2.7 Python to 3.4?
you have 2.7? Yeah. You can use 2.7. All right. 2.7 will work. Actually, I want to see if you have pip. Yeah, then do the last one. Pip install upgrade. And then you are on a Mac, so you just need to do the following. So terminal, right there, and space, and then so we have brew, we don't have brew, so we need to install brew. I actually have extra.
No, where did you put the file? So get if.
So I have some more over here.
Además uno que se instala, ¿verdad? Yo hice el de ahí aquí, pero el otro no comprado.
No, nomás es uno. El tuyo es el de Alrighty. ¿Ya instalaste el de Python? Sí, sí, install dash upgrade. Okay, so you're installing it. That's going to take a while. Where are you at? Oh, you're in Python.
And then you're going to do C. C's colon backslash up there and your Python. What's the variable? Those
It'll allow this thing to search other places. So let's try it again.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just one comma.
So now you can do fit and do the install. Okay, we're halfway there. How are you?
Oh yeah, you can do anything. But this one is kind of, it's going to help because there's like code augmentation. So what code I
Do the KP install.
I have all of them.
No.
You don't have to put it both right.
So do the pip install. Just do the pip install. So are you good?
So it's been installed dash.
Yeah. I'll make sure it's yeah, that's it. Oh, yeah.
Did you go install? Okay, there you go.
Did you want to follow along? Alright, cool. Alright, I think we're there. Does anybody need any help? I know there was one person that came in at the last. Hey, Mike. You want to join us? Oh, okay. Alright, so.
Where do you download the script?
Actually, Python I already have it installed, so as long as
Hey. ¿Ya puedo instalarlo? ¿Ya es que ya puedo instalarlo?
No, sí. Como más viene con lo de.
Vamos a seguir la dinámica y ahorita vamos a desarrollo. Ahorita vamos a instalar esto. ¿No tienes el? ¿Tú tienes el menú? ¿Cómo lo instalas? Por el GitHub. Ahí va.
Yes, yeah, I already have that. I just clicked on this. Yes. And what I did is I created a directory called code.rgb.
Hey, so
NK.
no,
Space.
you don't want
Code COD. Enter, yeah. And then CD, do code RGB. CD space. Okay. So now you're in that directory. Whatever you do is going to be in that folder. Now you're doing GIT.
Oh, right.
Type in both lines.
Space, and you are Control V.
It's okay, we're not done. I just want to get started. I'm kind of wondering how long we're going to be at this, so let's give it a shot.
Anything you need to send me.
So give me 5. Give me 5. We're waiting on a couple of people. I want to make sure we're all on the same page, so give me 5. Mario? Give me 5. Yeah, like literally raise your hand. So waiting on 2 more, 3 more.
It's unloaded.
Alright, cool. All right, so the strategy that I'm doing here is I just want to get your attention. So if I ask you for a 5, just come to me and give me your attention and keep your attention. So I want to make sure that we're on the same page, that that it's okay if you're not done. We're going to have another opportunity to install, and we'll get to that probably between the pizza break. I don't know exactly how long this presentation will be. It's because we're switching it up. We're going from just teaching you guys, and you guys are just sitting there, to now, okay, I want you guys to be part of the conversation. I want you guys to actually do something as we're talking about it. So last time we wanted to do 2 presentations, so we ended up with 1. That's why today we're doing the same thing, because we're not exactly sure what's going to happen. So we're going to go and see how the demo gods treat us today. So welcome to the class. This class is about APIs, so application programming interface. And if you're here, that means that you're interested in learning more how to create one, how to deal with them, because there's a bunch of them online now. That's really how everybody interacts with professional services. And hopefully I get to teach you all the terms, all the things you need to know, and you get to play with some of them as well. And if you have any questions, that's why we're here. So take advantage of the fact that you have us right next door. So if you don't know me yet, I'm Juan Maldonado. During the day job right now, I'm actually working at IDEA, so people call me Mr. Maldonado. It still feels weird when you hear that. But what the great thing is that I have over 10 years of experience as a software engineer. I've been doing this for quite a while. I used to work for Google for quite a bit, and then I came down to the Valley to help out the family business. But since there was nothing in the Valley, I decided between myself and the other guys, we should create something out of nothing, and we created Core RGB and Tech Tuesdays and all these events that are going on in the Valley. As you've heard, there are a lot of initiatives. You're welcome to partake in any one of them, as well as own one of them. We're always looking for more volunteers and people to get involved. So always get involved. I'm fluent with a lot of this technology. I might not cover every single thing that you might be looking for, but if you just come to me before or after the events, I can tell you and point you in the right direction. That's what we're here for. You're welcome to add me on Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, all those places. I'm very friendly. I don't have to be your friend, so you can friend me, so just go ahead and work on it and add it. Today's objective, students will be able to access REST APIs, save data, and finally create a simple REST API server. And I'm already providing you the template of what it looks like, and it will be in Python. And I want you guys to actually create something, and that way that will be guided practice between all of us. So we are doing exit tickets. This is a new concept of Code RGB. The reason we're doing exit tickets is because what we're working on from day 1 all the way to the end, we're trying to develop you and your skill sets so that we have a competition in October. We decided to move it from September to October, so we gave you guys more time as well as training time. And it's going to be a restaurant hackathon. So I'm going to shape today's conversation around restaurants and around different things along those lines. And in the future, we have trainings on data transformations. We have trainings on how to deal with databases, and as well as team management and agile development. So a lot of great things that are very applicable in the field, and in particular when you're doing a hackathon or an event that we're short on time and get moving. So we want to provide you that. Oh, and the other good one that we're going to do eventually is a geomapping, which I think pretty much 100% of apps nowadays deals with that. So the reason we have an exit ticket is because you guys, well, today I'll have a sheet passing around for sign-in, but you can email me basically their response. I think without doing anything physical, is that I'm going to want you to, or put it on GitHub and email me a link to the GitHub. If you were here last time, it's a good practice. Let me walk over the instructions, because when I put it up on the board again, or on the projection again, it's just there for you guys to work on it. Like, we want to help you, but at the same time, this is a good test for you to actually just practice it. And what it is I'm describing a backend service, and it has a lesson and a recording, teacher resources. And for each of these, I want you to define a URI, and if you don't know what that is, don't worry, you'll get to find out today. And from there, you will enumerate all the possible interfaces. Again, you will get to know and try those out. So each interface, you try those out, and then finally, you're going to explain what is the expected response. So, for example, a lesson could be when I do a get, I get the lesson description and information. If I do a get for lessons, then I get all of them, so on and so forth. You get to play with that eventually. And then finally, you're going to write the actual prompt for the post or the curl for this URL. You're going to pass the following parameters. Again, very simple. If you do the guided practice, if you do the independent practice that we're going to do today, you're going to have plenty of chance to go through all of this, and it should be a very simple exit ticket. If you collect all the exit tickets, then you get a special prize at the end. So if you weren't here at the last GitHub for training, no worries. You can actually go onto the website and see the video. You can also go to the GitHub repository that we're playing with and learn from there. So you get a certificate at the end and also a special reward. We'll figure that out as we go along. So, and that's pretty much all that I said. So let's get started. An API is the application program interface or programming interface. That's a fancy way of saying it. Some students have told me that I shouldn't say words like that, but I just mean to say that it's a scientific or the technical way of saying it. My way of interpreting that is how the software should interact with the service. Okay, I'm a service, I'm telling you this is how you're going to work with me. If you don't do what I tell you to, then you get nothing. So, another way of thinking about it, it's a contract. So whenever we read a contract, we know exactly what are the limits, we know exactly what is the things that we have to do to access certain parts of the contracts. It's exactly the same thing, but with an API. And when we access an API, you'll see that we'll do that in a certain manner. Here are some examples of APIs. Paying the water is actually one of them. You know, like a physical bill is actually an API. They tell you, send a check here, enter this information. That's a physical representation of an API. The weather API is an actual electronic one. You get to query it and see how's the weather today. The Facebook API, as we'll see today, is an API because you get to find out about things and properties that are on Facebook. And then finally, there's actually an API for tax transparency. You can actually see how many what's the revenue tax collected for hotels. You can learn about how wet an area is, and by wet I mean how much alcohol is being drunk in 1 weekend, in 1 month. All of it is available online on Texas Transparency. Anybody know of any other APIs? Amazon API, that's a good one. You can load up new instances, drop new instances, as well as do searches against Amazon as well. Anybody have another API?
Foursquare.
Foursquare. So can you tell us what Foursquare is?
Foursquare lets you check in businesses, locations,
Yeah, we actually have a check-in. I can't remember if it's check-in like a ghetto style or check-in like this, but we have a check-in somewhere. Actually, I can really just quickly do that without bothering you guys. You can see some of my dirty code. Check. Yeah. Oh, with an S. That's fine. So we are actually using the Foursquare API. If you were to go on Foursquare and you use the swarm map. I don't have it on this one actually. In a while. Yeah, I do have it. So if you use the swarm map and you check in, some people do this. Yeah, so there's Renee. And as you notice, I didn't touch anything on the computer. It actually went to you can see the code right here. You can actually see where I'm doing a curl request, and we'll actually go over what all this means, but here's the API. We'll probably need to change the tokens and everything, but, or I can blur it out. Oh. So here's the code, and literally I'm going to a website, right? And this is extra stuff, and I'm passing it information, and I'm getting back, okay, well, who is online right now? Anybody else? Okay, so Marcy's online as well. And this is going on the fly. So this is going to Foursquare, It's asking it for something. Foursquare is giving you information back. So we can look over that as well. Let's keep going. Anybody else have a final API they want to share that they use?
Foodler.
Sorry?
Foodler.
Foodler. What's that?
Foodler.com. It's where you can order food online and pay for it ahead, and then it'll be ready when you show up to pick it up.
Is this local as well?
I'm not sure if they have it down.
Not Food Alert, right? Food Alert?
No, Foodler. Foodler.
Oh, ER. Okay. Wow. I really hate when Time Warner Cable does that search thing. I've never heard of this. Can I do my calendar? Sorry, I'm getting distracted by it. I didn't know they had that. I would love that to have that here. So, let's go back. So, we already mentioned what REST is, and we saw a couple of examples of REST, of API. And what all of these APIs have in common, usually the newest ones, is that they respect what's called REST. And again, the fancy way of thinking about it is representational state transfer. Software architecture style for building scalable architectures. For me, that says nothing. So my definition that I want you guys to remember is, it's a proven convention that ensures best practices. Okay? So if you follow the guidelines that I'm going to talk to you about today, that means that you can work with other servers, you can work with other APIs, and if you are to create your own API using these conventions, and we only touched about the major ones, there's much more things that you can do with REST, and there are also frameworks that already do all the hard work for you. You'll be able to be scalable as well by using caching techniques and all that. The key points that I want you to learn out of REST is that all the interfaces, all the access points to the system are all by URIs or URLs. And again, I'll go over that in a second. But it just says that you're going to go to some address to get something. You don't go to a certain port. You don't go to like a certain shared library. None of that. All of it is via the web, via HTTP protocol, and you're accessing certain specific URLs or websites, if you will. And whenever you use a certain verb, HTTP verb, get, post, put, delete, you do something different. Okay? So if you just do a get, you're going to get a copy of the information and nothing changes. If you do a post, you're creating something, and we'll go over that in a little bit. And so finally, you only use the protocol. And if you know a little bit about the protocol, so just briefly, without inundating us with all the information, you have the UDP, TCP, and then you have HTTP, and then you have all those on top. So it's a very high-level protocol that deals with a lot of things that we don't have to deal with. And in particular, this is how the world communicates mostly. So what is a URI? Just think about it as just the path. Okay? A URI is the beginning of the website, kind of like this. This is our website. So the URI for blog is, the URL is the full path, the absolute path. The URI is just the path, the blog. Okay? The URI for search for Google is just /search. Does that make sense? Can anybody think of another URI maybe that they use every day? Maybe like a work email or something? Or like a directory URI, maybe like /academy. You guys maybe have used that before. Anybody else have another URI they want to share?
It could be anyone, no?
Yeah, it could be anything. So
/webinar, for example.
what? Which one?
/webinar.
/webinar. Yeah, that's a URI. What about a full URL? Anybody else? Just want to make sure, checking for understanding. So a full URL. What would be a full URL?
9gag.com.
Which one?
9gag.com.
9gag. Yeah, I'm familiar with 9gag. Now the thing is, the full URL will be including the protocol.
Yeah.
It's like one of those gotchas. Is you have to make sure you're including everything. Because here you're not seeing any protocol information. You're not including any secure information or even domain or the subdomain. All you're caring about is the path. Somebody's getting weather. Amber Alert? Oh. What'd you take, Justin? So I think I'm going to skip this since we kind of did this ourselves, talking about it. Or, yeah. That's fine. We'll skip this. But I wanted you guys to actually pair up. We'll do another exercise with pairing and start talking about it, and then we can talk about it. So, the key word here is how do we get the data? And the word is get. The simplest term is if you access a URL, again, the full website, and you're using an HTTP verb get. And you can actually see this happening by using the browser. So when I go to google.com, what you're actually doing, if I can show you the Google Developer Tools, and you guys can do this as well, what I did to get to this, let me close it. And so you have you're on a regular website. You don't have to do it. Everybody can go on google.com right now and just right click on it. I'm using Chrome, by the way. It might be a little different for another browser, but you can right click on it and you can go to inspect elements, and you're going to get what's called the Google Chrome Developer Tools. If you go to the Network tab, you can actually see what's going on in the background. So if I refresh, you can see that all the site contents of Google is downloaded on runtime. So here, this is what's called the waterfall. This is the first thing that is downloaded, and you see the method. All of the methods are gets, and there's a status 200. So there's a post actually. I didn't know they did post. So all of these are gets, and what they're doing is it's literally grabbing the resource. So here's one resource. You can click on one of them, and you can actually see what is the resource that you're getting. So in this case, you're looking at nav logo 225. It's all this imagery right here. And that was an example of a website. But if you just go to like an image, so go to rgv.org, logo PNG. So this is a single image, right? Single image. You again right-click, inspect elements, and you go to the network tab and refresh. You'll notice that there's a single one get, and the status 304, which is called unmodified, basically. But this get, if you look at the headers, again, you're kind of, when you're seeing this information, you're going into the HTTP protocol and you're grabbing all that information, like what is going on. And you can see that the remote address is, and this is the server address, basically, is 107. The request URL is the full information. And again, the request method is get. So literally, the browser is a REST client. It's telling the other server, get me this resource. I'll display it however I interpret it, and so on and so forth. And you can see some of the other headers: cache control, dates, what I can accept. All of these are part of the HTTP 1.1 specification. You don't have to read the specification unless you're totally in love with specifications, but I know I read it once and I kind of sucked at it, but it's definitely a good read once in a while. So let's go back into it. So the browser is a REST client. You actually don't need any of the tools that we're going to be doing moving forward. But if you want to do something like post, something like delete, something like put, you're going to need to use a different tool, which we'll start using in a second. And I've already been saying most of these verbs, but it's post, get, put, and delete. And another way of thinking these, and I encourage you to think about it this way, is I want you to think about post as a create. I want you to think about get as a retrieve. I want you to think about put as an update and delete as a delete, literally delete. Okay? So if I ever say, for example, I'm going to do it right now. I can literally do it right now. But if I say something along the lines of HTTP posts, this won't do anything to the website. Users, I can, as a human, think of this as, see if I can scroll beyond it. I can think of this as, okay, rgv.org, that's the user's interface. I'm going to want you to create a new user. Like, that's how I can read it. Like, I already know what this interface is supposed to do for me. I don't have to read any content, any documentations about it. I just know that that's what it's supposed to do. If I do users, let's say ID Olmo, and I put delete, I already know that that interface is supposed to delete that user. Okay, there's this convention about how you write these URIs, and we'll see those in the documentation as we go through them. And what we're looking at is called CRUD, It's one of those RESTful APIs. It's if you can supply any resource, which is what this is, all these users and lessons. So again, if I do get, and if I do, actually, let me just do a real quick search on this. I'm probably going to redirect me yet. And let me just follow. So if I follow that, then it's going to give me the HTML of the website. But what I wanted to say is that you're getting the resource. Like, tell me what search is going to give me, right? And we'll do that test in a little bit. Anybody need any clarification so far? Just breezing through all of this because I want you guys to just rather just play with it. Now, if you go back to the example here, it shows status 304. And you can literally just do search 304 on Google. And you're going to get the specification. And here's a good website that says 304 not modified. So that just tells the browser that just grab whatever you have locally. If I was to refresh without cache, you can see it's 200. And 200 is okay, basically. Yeah. That just tells me that the resource that I was getting is worked out exactly what you intended to do. Like there was no errors in the back end. And again, I'll show you that example in a little bit. But you just have to remember that these codes are important. Can anybody guess why when you do a get, when you get a post, when you do all these things, why is it that you want to return a code alongside the actual resource? Anybody can guess? So if I was to get, say, a search and I was looking for people, and I get some kind of results, but the server says that there was an error, and the server error is 500 internal server error. Now I know that even though I got some kind of result back, I can't trust it. Okay? Because you have to think about it in that this code is like the final say. If you get a 200 okay on the search results, then I can say as a developer, okay, the server told me this is okay. Like I believe that this is going to be what you were looking for. If I supply some bad parameter to the server, then I'm going to get a bad request because it's going to say, I don't understand your request. And that's for me to, like if I send you something and I get an okay even though I sent them the wrong request, maybe I try to figure it out for you. I'm just trying to say that this is more information for those that are developing. Because before, you're just getting answers back. It's kind of like this. When I do a get for the search, let me stop it. How do I know that all of this makes sense? Right? How do you know that this is good for you or not? If I do the actual search, so Q equals gallon, if I actually do the search, how do I know that what I get back is actually data against my calendar? And how do I know that there wasn't anything wrong in the back end? So the one way you can test it is by obviously looking at this, and I can see already some McAllen things in there. But what I'm looking for is the code. What did the server tell me? Here, let's write this more. So actually, you could use this one. So here it's telling me a code 301. You can see the headers 301 move. So if I look at this as a program and I see a 301, then I know that I need to follow the link that is in here. So if I was to follow that link as a human, I could get the actual result that I was looking for. So again, you get that big page of Google out of it. So again, the numbers are very important. We need to keep in mind them. The ones we want to keep in mind are 200, 300, and so on and so forth. These are the main ones that you want to use and you want to respect, basically. And this is basically going over the fatal errors, like what I was talking about. If you request like a change of a map, a change of this, how do you really know that you got what you were looking for? again, the codes are all important. Alright, so API and parameters. How do you pass a parameter to, or how do you pass an input, an option to an API? I want to make sure that we all understand this because we're going to be using a lot of this. Here you have the actual URL, so I have an example here, codertv.org, and you pass, and you have to use a question mark to delimit the parameters. And you pass the parameter equals value, and this is an example of them. And the second way of doing it is by doing the message body, but we're not going to do that in this like today. But if you want to know how most of the API frameworks work, they're using the message body. It allows you to pass a lot more information, basically. So we're going to try this. You guys are welcome to do this on your browser. I want you to copy the search here. Go to new page and search. And you notice that it didn't do anything. It just went back to Google. So if you pass in the Q and you put in the equals, again, Q being the parameter and equals being the assignment to that parameter, and you just put define ambidextrous. How do you spell that? I don't know. Define or, and it actually does the search result for you. So there I'm passing a parameter to search, and it's Q, and the parameter for the search is defined. Okay? You can tell the difference again by removing the Q, and you can see that nothing happens. It's really as simple as that. On Facebook, you can do similar things by going to different options, I think. But anybody have questions on that? It's really that simple. If you want to do more than one parameter, maybe I showed you that. It's Google search Q equals the term, and then the separator is the ampersand symbol. Ampersand. So, and you could do whatever you want, arbitrary B. And I think it shouldn't complain that you're doing multiple of them. Yeah, it doesn't complain. But here you can see there's another one that they're passing, actually. It's GWSRDSSL. I have no idea what that is, actually. But this is how you keep all these parameters involved in all of these requests. You just keep passing different parameters. So open up your command prompt. So I'm going to actually use one. That way we're both on the same page. So we open up VirtualBox and load up on Windows 7. So that way if I get an error, you guys will see the error. If I get it right, then there's a mistyping on your end. Now, if you're not familiar, I'm using VirtualBox. I think somebody here was using Bootcamp or Barcamp or whatever to launch it. I prefer VirtualBox to do this. That way, I can natively use Mac OS X. So here's Windows 7 launching on a Windows machine. And if you think that I'm using like a ripped off version, actually, this came from the IE 11 development. So when you do web development, you can actually download Windows off of the IEVMs here. IEVMs. If you want to do web development, it's a great library that you can use. Xdescent, IEVMs. It'll allow you to download any version of Windows and into VirtualBox, and you can just have fun with it. So I kept one of them around so that way I can do the presentation. So let me put this in full screen. And there we go. So I'm going to want you guys to launch you can do PowerShell or you can do command. It's going to do the same thing. So, and same thing. And you can run PIP and make sure that you have PIP installed. So, see, both return the same thing. If you don't get this, raise your hand so we can come to you and help you out. Okay, 1 there, 2 there, and then 2 back there. Justin, am I helping the guys back there? I'm going to help these over here. Oh, and the way you can test that you have the script information, the path information correct, is you can do path echo and then path like that. Oh, actually that works. And echo, no, that didn't work. Sure. Oh, no? No. Can't dot. Oh, I think so. Oh, underscore. No, never mind. For some reason it doesn't work on PowerShell, but it works on command line. And on my command line, as you can see the Python 34 and the Python scripts are in there as well. So you can do on the command line, so I guess you can close PowerShell, because that's one thing that didn't work for us. And we can remove this properties. I'm going to actually leave this open because I want you guys to keep quick edit mode on. We're going to be using the list size. Oh. That's weird. Yeah. It's really slowing down. Maybe.
Who doesn't have it?
What was the command line again?
Pip.
No, not what you don't have. If you don't have it.
If you don't have Pip, it should have it pre-installed.
No, it's not.
But if it's not, then you
Yeah, I have the file.
oh.
It was go here.
Yeah, that's the right one. And then just, I want you to try, if you did the PIP install that I showed you before, hopefully this is back fast. Okay, good. If you did the PIP install, I want you to try this one. HTTP get, and then do that. If you can't get HTTP get to work, so again, HTTP.
Anybody else?
Oh, here we go. HTTP, then when you do HTTP, you just press enter, you should be able to get at least that prompt that comes out. And let me do it over here.
So I should get a big, large block of data.
Oh, the Google one? Yeah. Okay, so you're set up. Good. So just make sure HTTP works, and that way we can start playing with APIs. Yeah, your works. Okay, your works. Just do HTTP get. Continue putting your. Yeah. So let me show you the example that I want you to try. So I want you to try that one, and you should get this blob, big blob of mess.
Does that get capitalized mandatory?
No, I just do it out of habit. I mean, I don't think so. Let's see. No. Yeah, no, it works. So again, HTTP get. So make sure everybody gets this big blob of stuff. You're basically accessing Google right now at that point in time. Yeah, the source code. You still have to get it.
So the
I can do barrel. Google barrel.
showing you like seeing.
Everybody got it? Everybody else?
Alright, I think we're all there. Alright, so yeah, exactly. So one of the questions over there was, is this thing like Perl? And if you're not familiar with Perl, I don't like Perl. Like, let me show you what Perl is. Like, what is a command line for syntax for a post? There is a command line syntax for Perl, for post. I'm not happy with that interface. Okay, like with this little program, you can do, and don't be like confused about using this command line and this command line. It's going to be the same thing. So, like, if I wanted to do data, like say on Google, then actually you can do the following. You can read here data. You can download. You can do an authorization. You can do certifications. You can do forms. So again, you can do HTTP and look at the form. There's a form, and here's a post, basically. And like that's simpler. But in today's class, we're not going to do some of the more advanced versions. I'll reserve that to you guys, basically. That's like the cheap way for us teachers is I'm going to let you guys try that on your own. But we'll do a couple of them that at least you'll get your feet wet and you can try it out. Did the pizza come in yet? Any chance? What? Did the pizza come in yet? No? What? Did the pizza come in? No? Okay, maybe we should start ordering.
I'm a fat guy, dude. I do the first one online.
All right. One second. Okay, so let's get back into it. Can somebody check on the pizza, maybe? See what's going on with that? And then, while we're doing that, we can get to work. So, we heard CRUD, pair up, blah, 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 parameters, and we're there, and okay, we're here. Great. Actually, I want you guys to try the second one as well. HTTP get. Oh. By the way, you guys can load up the presentation. So if you want to copy these, actually, share the link. Copy. Google. Let's see. If you want to go to the presentation, you can just go here to that one. Just so that way we don't slow down. So you guys can go there. I'll give you guys a minute or so to go to that website. Borrow this. Okay, we got 2 people there. 3 people. 5. Yeah, that first one is an L. Yeah. GOO.GL, capital M, capital W, 39. So we got a lot of people here. Hey, cool. Who's the anonymous name cat? Alright, I'll do this one in the short time. So if you guys can copy this, we're on page, I don't know, 23, 24? Yeah, 24. So go ahead and copy that, and we're going to go to the post, and I want you to run that. So I'll wait for you guys to run it, and you tell me what the answer is, what happens. And if nothing happens, then I should be worried. Well, let me run it that way I all know what's going on. Okay, good.
We're going to use HTTP to get there?
Yeah, you're going to do this one.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Oh, very good. We're messing with an API from Time API, and basically what it's supposed to do, it's supposed to give you the UTC time right now. So if you run it, you're supposed to get this. just a simple text, and that's an API. Like you just interacted with a live API. So again, if you run HTTP GET, you should get, not this time because it's obviously not now, but you know, and the time after that. Yeah. We're gonna make sure everybody is working on that. Yeah, make sure you're typing it. You can move it up if in case it's too low. Yeah, man, congrats.
Oh, okay, so yeah, to me that's the paper. Yeah, so. We wanted to come to 5. Yeah. Thanks. We're actually going to do this. We're going to start the business on the side. That's a lot of development on the ground. Because like they're like shares for cash.
That's how you get started. You gotta start hungry. Oh yeah, you guys. Awesome. Yeah, if you want to jump ahead, by all means. You guys don't have to do exactly the same thing. If you guys are more advanced, by all means. I just want to make sure everybody is on the same page.
Anybody else have problems?
Alright, cool. Well,
Roger, you're all right?
let's keep going then.
Yeah, on my phone.
And so you might be thinking is like, well, I'm doing this on the command line. Like, this isn't programming, is it? Well, technically, yeah, because on the command line, you can create a bash script, or you can create a Python script that runs just this. Or, by the way, you can just go to the browser, right? Like, and hey, welcome, pizza's here. Let's give him a hand. Round of applause. So when you do an API, it's not like you're creating genius, right? Like what you're doing is you're just providing a simple interface. So if you were thinking that this class was going to be about like, okay, show me how to code this, show me how to do this, it's like no. I just want to make sure everybody has the right conventions. We will do a little coding, so let's get to that. In case you're like, so let's do something like that. So let's go to the next page. But I just wanted to make sure you understood that it's very simple. So on the URL that I gave you about from my files, there's the server.py, and obviously demo docs, you know, it would be nice. I provided this Python file, and I actually don't know where mine is. So cd source. I wonder if I have it here actually. Not there. Where am I going to have it? Desktop? Yeah, server, Python, okay. So I have it on my desktop. So you guys might have it somewhere else. Go to that location of where it is. And you can find it, like, you have two ways to, like, get to there. No, not really. I would put it on your desktop, and then I would do CD desktop, and you would get to where I'm at right now. And for some reason, this isn't larger. Let's see. Much larger. Okay, there we go. So I want you to look for this, so that way I'm not cheating. So when I open up the command prompts, I am currently at, there you go. If you do CD, you'll see where you're at. So you can actually copy this in case you're lost by right-clicking, mark. So you mark it, copy it, and again you right-click and you are copying basically. I know this might be a little confusing. And if you go to the address in a folder or whatever and you paste it, you can actually get to that directory. Okay. So if I download the server file and it's on my desktop, I can actually copy the URL, you know, the location of where it is, and can you open the new Windows? Alright, that doesn't work too well, but let's try. Any way that it'll give me the full address? Probably not. So assuming it's in a different folder, like did you know how to do the full path?
You can just drag the file onto the DOS prompt and
No way. Yes? Let's try that.
Right? It's crazy.
You do. Oh my god. Well, yeah, it'll launch. So CD.
The actual file.
Oh, the actual. Oh, that's better. So find the file, the server file, and then drag it over. Yeah. Well, don't hit enter like this. You're going to want to do Python and then hit enter. And you're starting in HTTP, which is a server. I'll go over quickly on the code in case you haven't seen Python again. And once you get to this prompt, save this command prompt. Okay. So you're going to want to run another one. So command, well, I'll do here, command run. And while this one is doing something else, see, it's still there. You want to do, well, yeah, HTTP get localhost. And you get a response. Okay. So here's the server on the left.
How did you bring up the server?
Sure. So first, find the file, and then you're going to do Python and find the file. And then Mario was awesome enough to tell us how to do that. So I would go to Windows Explorer, find the file, the server file, drag it over to the command prompt, and it auto-fills it for you.
Yeah, I get a no module named http.server here.
That's what I get.
Oh, you haven't installed the, you need to install the pip. Okay. I think. Have the same problem? Let me do the following. I'm going to move this file, or rather, you can actually double click on it. Oh, wow. Awesome. Eesh. 1 second. Let me do the following, because I might have an old version of the file on the repository. So, edit this file, save it, there's a couple, no, should work actually, so I'm kind of curious about that error. What is the error that you got?
It's no module named http.server.
That server. Oh, you might not work because it's Python 2.7, I think. Right. Yeah, 2.7. So, if it doesn't work for you, can you give me 1 second? I can prepare a 2.7 one for you. So here's a credit. I always like to credit where credit is due. So if you go to this URL, this is the original file creator. Yeah. One of the lessons that you learn is if it's already done, don't redo it. So here's the minimal HTTP server, blah, blah, blah. You can actually copy this one. Instead of the dummy server one, you can use this server. So let me give you a Google URL. This is just for those that can't get the other one. Like if you're on Python 2.7, you want to use this one. Okay? So go ahead and download that. Just do something. Look, do me the following. Python version. Yeah. Do Python version, and if you have 2.7, raise your hand. Okay. One more. Anybody else have a Python? Python 2.7, like this? Anybody else? 3. Anybody else? Okay, cool. So you 3, I want you to go to this URL. Okay. And it'll take you to, I'll give you back that.
There's a built-in server.
Well, that's what we're using. It's just that this already gives you the get, the put, the post, all those things.
So you have an error.
So 1 second. For some reason it didn't take long. Sorry.
No, it's telling you you have an error. No module maybe.
Okay, good. So yeah, use that one. That's an L.
So go to a browser.
Yeah, go to a browser and look up that file. You replace the server.py with this one. Okay.
I don't know. You just kind of.
That's right. What's going on?
He's got an error. No module named HTTP server.
Yeah, I think you might have an old version of Python. So you're going to need to download that file and replace the one that I gave you. I'm going to try to not be brief, but at least be concise with the explanation of this. So if you want more explanation on the Python, feel free to come to me and I can explain a little bit more. And you'll actually have independent practice to mess with this file. That's why I wanted to give it to you. But let me just go over it real quickly. So I'm importing a couple of modules. This is just commentary here. All this is comments. I'm importing a HTTP server module, which comes from what's the built-in server from Python. So I'm not using any kind of elaborate library, anything like that. It's just a simple Python server. It comes with Python. I'm creating a class here that extends the request handler. Again, I'm not going to go over what that means, but all you have to know is that a lot of the work is done for you in the beginning, like within the base server. And here I am doing definition do get. Okay, so this do get, what it does is it sets the headers, and you can see the function up here, and it writes to the W file, which I believe is part of the other thing. Yeah, I think it's part of the actual server, the class, the previous one. Again, don't worry about that detail. And eventually it outputs out to the command line the hi. So again, if I do, well, not here. I do it over here. So if I do, unless I get rid of it, let me make sure. We'll see. Localhost. I'm doing one thing in one hand. Okay, how about that? Hold on. Run that. With this. Here we go. So yeah, if I was to run the get, what the server is doing is it's looking for what you're asking for. So if I do get, if I do posts, again, you're welcome to play with this as I'm doing it. If you do the post, you see post. So what the command or what the source does is based on what the verb you're using, do get, do post, you're going to get a different function call. Like you're going to get a different function being called. Remember what I said, that when you do a get, you're supposed to get like a list of things or maybe like a resource of something, like we did with the Google search. Well, you're gonna like in the back end in Google at some point in time, and somewhere of their servers, they have something like this where they say whenever I have a get function or a get call on my API, I'm gonna do some work and I'm gonna output whatever I talked about I'm gonna do. If I get a post, if somebody wants to create something, again, remember using that, I'm gonna do the following thing. So I'm not going to actually write it out due to time, but I just want you to keep this in mind: is that in the code in the posts, I would do the following. I would create maybe a user, a record, whatever you want to call it, and then I would return the ID of the user or the record or whatever. And this is what you would do in that space, right? And then the gets, again, the server would do whatever it wants to do with whatever it's set. Like the time one, the one that we did earlier, so we go back to the time one. Like, Actually, real quick, actually you can just copy that. So Python, current time, and daytime. How to get the current time in Python. Import daytime now. Slightly compact with this one. So I can do this, and again I'm going to import daytime, and I'm going to write, instead of all of this like long unnecessary thing, I'm just going to write. Actually, that makes me think about it. But let me try this first and probably get an error, but let's find out. And what am I editing actually? Oh, I'm editing this file, so I apologize. Go back here, run this again. I probably don't have anything good. Oh, it works. Very cool. So again, I'm going to add imports daytime, just so that I can show that example of there's nothing to it. So get, and there we go. So paste this. Yeah. I don't know about that one. Let's see. It needs to become binary, so I need to figure out how to turn it into binary. We'll see if this works. So whenever you save the file, you need to cancel the old one and run it again. That way it loads into memory. Okay, so that's key point number one, is make sure to remember to reload it. And now you can try to do, let me go with get, because I'm modifying the get. So, well, I got something, but
Got a lot of errors.
over here, yeah, you're right. Okay, so this one does not support the buffer interface. See, so that's what I mean. Is I need to turn this into a buffer. So turn daytime buffer. And I apologize for not having this example up ahead of time, but I didn't think about doing something like this. String time to daytime. So this would just be buffer, Python buffer. And if this is like, man, I thought this guy knew everything. No, I do this all the time. I don't pretend that I know it all. Okay, let's try that. And again, not that one. This is the shortcut version of it. So let's see how we do by doing wrapping in the buffer. Let's see what happens. Again, refresh. If it doesn't work, we'll just move forward. I don't want to take up time on this. Yeah. Buffer, that's fine. Okay. I'll figure it out later, tell you the answer. But the main point is, actually, converted to string. Yes, one more try. If I can convert this into a string, then I can technically do what I intend to do, which I'm not 100% what's going to work. So let's try to save this, run it, and hang on. Okay, cool. Let's just go back. Sorry. Windows. Choose the command. Paste. Get. But this file is ready for you. Like I said, you can just go ahead and keep playing with it. The independent practice is actually going to ask you to create a guest. So you're going to have to create a new entry and add it. And you saw kind of like what I was doing, going back and forth. Now let's play with actual APIs that are working. Because really I don't want to go into too much example with the coding, because you guys don't know Python maybe. But anyway, so we're going to mess with the Facebook API. Again, if you have the presentation up, I want you to go to the Graph API. And I'm going to walk you through the Graph API. And I think this is important that somebody that is familiar with it goes through it for somebody that might not have experience with it. And since we're not going to use, since we're not going to actually program something, we're only going to touch the surface of it. Okay, like you're going to use all the public things. So that way we don't have to do anything crazy. So what I want you guys to do is to go to this website or click on the link on the presentation. Should be like that, basically. Again. Yeah, slide 26 or something. 26, yeah. You can just copy paste it, make it faster. And you can either go directly to it, or just follow along. It's up to you guys.
That would be copy paste in the second window that we opened.
Yeah, another window. I have way too many windows, as you can see. God, that's good. And then, like I said, you guys can follow along by doing it, or you can just follow as I'm showing there. So if you click on,
You show that it's not recognized.
doesn't recognize? Oh no, you go on the actual browser.
Oh, on the back.
Yeah, that's right. So you're going to get to the website, and I'm going to walk you through it. This is your first time developing a Facebook app. Your apps will show up here, and I'm kind of curious about first-time users, whether they get something different altogether. But if you don't, you're going to click on Reference, and you're going to get to this huge list of resources. And remember all the URI examples that we talked about? This is how they represent their resources. So like in this example, you have one resource that says add image. Another resource is users. Let me show you what that looks like. Or page. This is one resource. So again, I just want you to be familiar with how to read this. A page, a Facebook page, photo, represents photo, and so on and so forth. So let's play with user first. You guys can see what you get. So click on user. And when you read this, you have multiple options. First of all, when I read a documentation, you should look at creating, reading, updating, and deleting. What does that spell out?
Correct.
Correct. So creating will be a post. So here, this is a reading, so you do a get. If you do a creating, so creating, what do you think you're going to get? You can't perform this function on this input. So that's actually possible too. Is that on the server that he creates, it's quite possible that you say on a do post, you might return this is not a valid entry or whatever. So it's totally possible for you to do that. Updating, they're asking you to use a post. That's fine too. You can do put or post. But right now, let's just read it. So we go to reading, and you can do this one actually. The version 2.4. Let me show you the full URL because you haven't seen that. So what you got to do is HTTP get, and then it's oh man, is it API Facebook.com? I have no idea actually. I forgot already. 2.4. And well, I'll show you that right now in a second. Instead of actually doing it through HTTP, some of these newer APIs, like Facebook, they give you a Graph Explorer, including the Google ones. It actually gives you a Graph Explorer as well. If you click on the Graph Explorer, you might get like a permissions, like accept permissions from the Graph API Explorer. Accept it, like this is Facebook, so it's their app. They're not going to take anything from you. Like I have a bunch of apps that I've used before, so
This paste an existing access token.
yeah.
Click get access.
Yeah, so it's going to ask you for permission to get the token. And you know what? Actually, I can do this so that way I can see exactly what you're doing. Let me reset my permission to it. And by the way, you can always do this on yours. So security, more settings, and apps. You can always delete the Graphic API Explorer, remove it. Yeah. So let me go back to this, run it, and okay, nothing. So you can actually do /me here and run it. And it's going to give you an access token must be available. So to get an access token, you click on get token, get access token, and then you get this permission list. Let me explain that. This is not a session on Facebook, so I'm not going to go exactly on the whole permission thing. I'm going to go over how to do the OAuth 2. That's more involved, a lot of things going on. But what's going on is that when an application wants to get information from a Facebook user, from a Facebook page, from all these protected properties, you have to get authorization from that owner. So right now, I'm trying to ask permission to myself. And right now it's asking me, well, out of all the things, so like for example, the birthday, like I can go back to the Facebook graph reference and I could say birthday. And this one says, click on 4. Extend it. Actually, they used to make it a lot simpler in explaining what is needed to be requested or not. Actually, this one does. To later, but now I don't know how to look it up actually. Anyway, it used to be extremely simple, but I guess now you can review the list on the right. Like user birthday, this is the permission that you're asking for. So let's say that I don't request it. I'm kind of curious to see what happens if I request myself. Can you continue? And if I put me, now I run it, and it says my full name now. So if over here on the left, the nodes, ID, me. So if I click on my ID, you'll get the actual search field. If I put birthday, nothing should come up. Let's see. Yeah, nothing should come up because I didn't give it the authority. So now if I get access token and user birthday, you guys don't have to get anything, so don't worry about it. Run it. And still not. Oh no, there it is, actually, birthday. So, name, full name, and this is how you, remember how we talked about the parameters? Here the parameter is fields, and then the value of each of the parameters that you want, you just append to it. So what's another one? About. So if you add the about, we're actually changing it here. You'll actually see the, look message, see. You need to add the about me permission. So again, about me, access token, approve. And so as an app developer that you want to work with a user, every single time that you want to add a new permission, you need to ask for permission each time. But after you do it once, you can always refresh the permission. Like you did it once, and so you should be able to. Now what's going on? Oh, I don't want to. But anyway, you can also look at the likes, and debug shit doesn't say anything. You need to request access token and do likes. Again, say OK. Again, this is for the security of the user. So you press likes, and now you can see all the things that I like. Arnold, TechBuzz, RGB Lead, Edby, if you've never seen that, it's really hilarious. And all of these are pages, actually. So again, if I click on the ID, you can get to more information about STEM. If I do /likes, it so many likes about it. So this is the Graph API Explorer for Facebook, and really that's the process that I would do in developing an app. So to give you a direct example of what you can do, and I want you guys to play with this, is and actually this is where here we go. Actually, this is the link. So we can actually do this. Let me do this one. So this is Roosevelt's actually. So this is a restaurant. Facebook doesn't have a direct way to search for restaurants or for places yet accessible. So you have to be very individual with how you do this. So this is Roosevelt's at 7. You can find out. Should work with the about. Yeah, about is my common friend's L house. You can keep the name. You can do something along the lines of let's see, categories. Yeah, category, and you can imagine already doing like a grabbing the information off of Facebook, but just requesting all this data. And the way that you would access this on the HTTP, you use graph.facebook.com. Thanks. Facebook.com/version 2.4, and you need to put not that one first. It's so long that it's not worth going through each example. That's why the Graph Explorer is so handy. But you have to copy this URL. Yeah. So you copy this. You do get HTTP graph, just so you can see that it's exactly the same interface. Or copy that, then and access token, and you just copy the token that's here equals, and then I think that might be it. Access token equals. Oh, here's a cheater's way of doing this. Inspect element just to load up the console with the network, and then submit it. And you have this over here. So again, the cheater's way of doing this would be HTTP get and paste the code section. And there you go. So you're still getting. Yeah, there we go. So again, very long URL. I would rather you guys not mess with it in HTTP. I would rather just mess with the playing around with the Graph API through this interface, and you can do a lot more complicated things anyway in here, like including changing it to compose, delete, etc. It's just easier to work with. But I just wanted to make sure that you all understood what an API looked like. Now. So you can actually play with the API as well for the map, but based on time and 30, maybe we can. It's up to you guys. You want me to show how the map API works? Well, I have mine set up, so you can actually go to this URL. So on this.
That's also how the data comes out. Like let's say I see JSON or XML.
For Facebook? Yeah.
Yeah.
So usually they give you the option,
Okay.
Facebook, Google, it allows you to do that, but you get to decide. So where are we? Sorry. Getting lost. There we go. So here I actually have my own API already up.
Oh, I see.
You see the JSON? So in this example, let me fix this one. There we go. Google does have a Places API, which is what I wanted to show you. And you can actually start finding restaurants. So Coco's Cafe Uptown, Wallbangers, And this is JSON. But if you wanted to, you can return XML by changing from JSON to XML. And if you're not familiar with XML, it's basically an antiquated way of doing things. But there are a lot of tools that still use it very widely. So here you can actually read open hours, false, open now rather, false, the location ID, including like the, actually I'm kind of curious what this icon does. So, okay, a restaurant icon. But yeah, I'd rather use the JSON because it's just easier to read what you're doing. So the way that this API works, let me show you that, is that if you go to Google Places, I actually don't have the direct link to it, and then you just put API. You can see this is the starting page, but we're going to use the web service because we're not going to use any of their libraries. And you can do a search basically. That's what we did. You need an API key, which is what I was doing here. If you go to this Google short link, it will actually walk you through the process of creating an application. And at the end of it, it looks like this, the, well, I don't know if you know, console for Google. Oh, there it is, console. Developers, Google. I don't know why it's going to be so long, but, so here I have one project. Do I have any others? Yeah, I have a couple others. And there's my request actually that I was just doing. And eventually you'll be creating, you'll be enabling APIs. So the ones that I have enabled for this project are the BigQuery, the Maps API, and the Places API web service. So once you enable it, and you can tell you, well, order's already at 6. You can already start using it. So, and the example that they show you is you can find nearby results just by typing in this address and getting the result out of it. So here's doing a nearby, and I need to put my API key, which I have here. And this is depending on your project. You enable it and you run it, and it tells you the JSON results of. And I don't know where this is actually. That long locations. So if I wanted to do, like say, a restaurant review, you can actually do it off of this as well. Opening hours, photos are there, vicinities, and I believe you can do place search with reviews. Yeah. Keyword customer reviews, open now, Zagat selected. So this is again an API that you guys can use for the hackathon and the restaurants competition. And the API is quite simple compared to the Facebook one. You really just use, again, a URL with JSON, location, and just go from there. And you can even do text searches so that if you just put a box in front of your API, your application that says search for restaurants in McAllen, you just have to do what I showed you, right here, text search, right? So the text search tells you, let me show you the actual example. So the text search tells you that the query is right here, and you can do Roosevelt's, and an API key that I have is that one. And run it. And Roosevelt's 21st, that one is in Pennsylvania. There's another one in Chicago, and another one, where's Roosevelt's at 7? There's McAllen one. And this example is in XML actually, but you can always go back to JSON by selecting it here. So there's JSON, and then I'm looking for McAllen. There is Roosevelt's American Deli, McAllen. Yeah, Roosevelt's American Deli. Oh, here it is, the actual one. So from here you can actually get photos from them, or you don't know what. Oh, this is the person's branding contribution photo reference. You can take it from here basically. I'm just showing you quick API and independent practice. That's I really don't have much more to tell you guys about this unless we want to go over the server pi. I really just intended for you guys to get the feel of what a REST API looks like, how you work with it, how you can create one. You already have the templates on where to go from here. I would encourage you to give it a shot. The independent practice is to create a guestbook API. So create a messages URL, and when you go to the URL and you want to get all the messages. So when you post or you create a message, you just keep adding to the guestbook, and then eventually you just keep seeing the results. So it's like very rudimentary, but it actually goes through a lot of the examples that we did. And if you want to skip that and just work on the exit ticket, you're welcome to. The idea is, again, I'm not asking you to code anything. I just want to make sure that you got the concepts, which is what are resources and how would you define the URIs, the resources to the URLs to the URIs, the URIs to those resources, and then just tell me what you would expect when you do a post, a create, delete, and so on. Does that make sense? And then the second one is just to write out the Perl or the HTTP pi, or this is a fake URL, so you can imagine how to do that. Again, you're just passing parameters, so we should already know how to do that as well. So the exit ticket is pretty fast, so you can work on the guest book, or you can try to work on the exit ticket. And I'm done. If anybody has any other questions, I'm here for you guys in case you need anything. And this is how you save a JSON file in case you want to use a JSON for your data store. Any questions? Cool. Well then, I'll be around in case you guys need anything.